Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Evolution Armada Universe Autobot Hotshot. So let's go ahead and take a look at that packaging. And we will start right up here at the top. You have parents, you have that QR code if you want to scan it, and then you've got some tech specs. There's your big gaping hole. There's some artwork of Hotshot in his alt mode. And down here, Legacy Evolution, he is a deluxe class. Transformers up the side. Here's some really cool artwork to enjoy. On the back, you have product shots. He is Hot Rod, Hotshot, Hot Rod. And he transforms in 21 steps. And you've got all your warnings down there. And the baby is sad because the baby gets confused between Hot Rod and Hotshot. And over here, you've got that artwork. There's his face. And there he is in his bot mode looking good. And then down here you have some additional information if you care to read it. So that's it for the packaging. Let's go ahead and see what came inside that box. Behold, laid out here before you is everything that came inside that box, and don't be surprised, he's a deluxe class. He didn't come with much. But let's go ahead and get started. Over here you get your little sheet of warnings. Over here you have your instruction booklet, and then right in the middle you have the only thing really that counts as an accessory that he came with, and that is his engine double-barreled gun thing. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And I will say I do like the paint, and I like the details that they have in there. It looks pretty good. You do have very shallow blast effect compatibility right there. And then down low you have those two pegs right there that you can use in the variety of ports that are on the figure himself. And then of course just right there on the front in alt mode, so he's got that blown engine kind of look going. Yeah, it looks pretty good. The overall quality is good. Paint is done well. So no major complaints on it. It's just not the most exciting thing in the world. But yeah, there you go. Alright, so that's going to do it for this segment. There's not much else to talk about. So let's go ahead and get right into it, and we'll bring Hotshot in and take a look at his details. Here he is, the bot we've all been waiting to see. This is the deluxe class Hotshot. Let's go ahead and bring him in for his close-up, and we're going to start right there with that head. And yeah, he's got a big old head and a big old face in proportion to his body. Doesn't look bad. It's just slightly oversized. And it looks like he, up here, sculpt work-wise, it looks like he's got a little spot for an Autobot symbol. Kind of an oblong one, but one nonetheless. But good attention to detail there, I think. And then he does come with a little visor. This visor is non-removable, so you can get some sweet targeting action going if you want to. And I do like the paint, and then the it's just kind of a blue transparent or translucent plastic under there with that silver paint. Looks pretty good. And well, let's take a look at the tops of those shoulders. So you got some sculpt work in there, big Autobot symbol. Then coming on down, it looks like he's wearing a parachute or something like a 5-point harness, something along those lines. Nice silver paint. You can definitely see where the paint was painted on top of the orange though, so there's a little bit of bleed through, if you will, of that orange on there. Coming on down to the crotch, everything looks okay, nothing super exciting. And coming down to those legs, let's just start with the front of the legs first, and then we'll get into the rest of it. So you've got some okay sculpt work going on right there, not much in the thigh, and then a little bit of action on the top of the foot. But let's turn our attention to the insides of the legs. Oh, these are ugly. Man, this is ugly. I would have liked to have seen them do something better. I know it's a deluxe class, but yeah, it's just ugly. And then these don't pin in, so they move around on you. It's just, yeah, it's ugly. Not a fan. But moving on to the outside of the legs, it's a little bit better. Not the greatest, but it's a little bit better. So you've got a lot of car hood going on right here. You do have a port that you can use right there if you want to use it. And then making our way up. At least he's solid, so there's something to be said for that. Looking up under the arm, you've got not a lot going on, but if you want to look at something, there it is. Underside of the arm, he's got some hollow areas there, so a little bit of cost savings. But at least he's got some nice detail in those hands. And then there he is from the side. Whoa, where are you going? Trying to fall down on me? I know I called you ugly. I'm sorry. There he is from the side. So yeah, it's not the most elegant bot mode, not the most elegant transformation that I've seen, but at least he's sturdy. There he is from the back. Let's just go ahead and take a look at that. The back's not as bad, I think, as the inside of the legs. At least the windows and the roof kind of cover that up. But yeah, it's still, I don't know. He's not the greatest. But, you know, he's not the worst either, I suppose. So there you have it. He is, from an overall look standpoint, he kind of looks and feels like a McDonald's Happy Meal toy. I hate to say it, but he kind of does. You know, he's just okay. But let's go ahead and get into the articulation now and take a look at him from there. And we're going to start right up here with his head. There's not a lot you can do with the head just simply because of the shape of it, but I guess I'll count this as articulation. You can bring that visor up, you can bring it back and get it out of the way. But then you've got a little bit, I think it's just slop. I wouldn't really call it posability. Nothing side to side, a little bit up and down, and then you can go all the way around if you want to with the head. Coming down here to the shoulders, so you've got these big shoulder pads right here. Now I'll talk about those as well. So I'm going to count this as articulation. So the shoulder pads, you can see you have a kind of a slot there, and then you have this tab right here. So I think the design intent here is that you're going to put those shoulder pads on and they're going to fix in place right there. This one will not stay down, so it just keeps popping out. So I've gotten myself about to the point where I kind of like having the shoulder pads back here, so I'm going to count this as articulation. So the shoulder pads makes him look a little bit bulkier. And if you think about it from a standpoint of military strategy, why would you want a shoulder pad right there that's going to inhibit your line of sight when you're trying to look over your right shoulder? It's just it doesn't make sense. If you're a soldier, you're not going to want that. So, you know, having him back here gives him a little bit more freedom so he can see more degrees around him, especially with his periphery. But anyway, side note, so going to the shoulder, the arms will come out that far, and you can go all the way around. Just mind all the geometry that you're going to have to get around. Elbows, you're going to get 90 degrees, and then you have bicep rotation. Nothing at the hands, no wrist swivel rotation, anything like that. So you do have waist rotation, and if you cheat a little bit, you do not get an ab crunch. But if you cheat, you can have him looking down. Now you expose a ginormous gap right there, but you can have him looking down if you want to cheat. That's up to you. All right, so down here at the hips, if I get those arms out of the way, you can get a full split. I am going to call that a Hotshot Van Damme, just because it's fun to say, but it is more than 180, so I think it's pretty good overall. And then you get thigh rotation, so you can go all the way around with those. Again, just be aware of what you're hitting. And then front kick, you're going to front kick that far. Back kick, you're going to back kick that far before you start running into stuff. So pretty good range of motion there. And then you do have a knee bend here. The knee bend's a little strange just because you plug in the yellow tab into that orange slot, which is part of his kneecap. So just, you know, do your best to try not to disconnect that. And then you bend the knee, you're going to start running into this, but if you move this out of the way, you can get a little bit more out of that knee bend. So depending on what you need for posing, you do have a little bit extra available. And then coming down here to the feet, the fronts of the feet, so the metatarsal, this is as up as they'll go, and then you can take them that far in, which becomes the bumper. Nothing at the heel as far as movement, but then you do get ankle tilt. So you can get some pretty extreme ankle tilt. That does match, that one's really tight. That does match his splits. So yeah, he can get down a boogie, no doubt about it. All right, so now that we've got that articulation out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about his accessories. I'm not going to do a separate segment here for the accessories because there's just simply not a lot that you're going to do with this guy. Now, you have the singular accessory, but you do have kind of the added bonus here. So if I bring this in, you're not going to be surprised to see that, you know, you plug it in. I don't like the fact that he's got two ports and then he holds it like that and then it's kind of exposed. I would have liked to have seen them do another way or do something else there, but it is what it is. Or if he could find a way to bring his arms forward so he could use them together, kind of bring them both together and like it's a big gun, you know, but you just don't have the range of motion there. So yeah, this is kind of what you do as far as as far as that goes. Now you do have one other added bonus here, which is if you turn him around and you see this axle assembly back here, You notice that the wheels are a little bit different. You've got a mushroom peg in this side, and then on this side you have a different style mushroom peg. So you can bring this up, and then you can spin this, and then he's got a ginormous cannon right above his head, which, you know, you want to use your targeting. Get that out of the way and get my finger back there. So you want to use your targeting visor for. Let's go ahead and put his shoulders down the way the instructions want you to, even though I'm not a fan of it, but you know. So there you have it, and then you can bring that cannon forward, and now there you go. So you've got that ability as well. So if you wanted to, you know, plug in like a big boomer, you could plug in a big boomer right there. You have the ability here if you want to. It's very shallow, but it works. If you want to do something like that, you can as well. So I'm not going to celebrate this guy as far as his blast effect compatibility goes, because we've pretty much just shown you the extent of it here. So we've kind of reviewed all that. Now you do, in the axle, you have a port that you can use as well. And then you have the Starscream port back here where Starscream shoots everybody in the back. So you do have that ability if you want to use it. And then you got a port back here. You've got ports down here. So, you know, you can pretty much run the gamut as far as blast effect compatibility if you want to. Just not a lot. You know, it's kind of cool that he's got this big cannon that you can use right up here. I guess I can dig that. But it'd be nice if his head could look up. That way, as he turned this and turned that up, he could be looking up where that's going, and you know, you could do something like that. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. he's all right for a deluxe class. But now that we've talked about the details, the articulation, and those accessories, let's go ahead and get into the transformation on this guy. So let's go ahead and get Hotshot transformed into his alt mode. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is just take these shoulder pads and lift these shoulder pads up just to get them out of your way. That's going to let you now open the chest up. So if you just pull on his head, you're going to open the chest up like that, flip the head in, and then close that chest up again. The chest does not close completely. You've got a little bit of a gap here, and that's by design. You'll see that when we bring this piece around. Now coming down here to the arms, you're just going to take the arms at the bicep swivel, and you're going to rotate those in so your ports are sticking up. So do the same thing over here. And you don't have to bring those in yet, because the next thing we're going to do, just to get it out of the way, is a waist rotation. So we're going to turn that waist 180 degrees. All right, now we'll go ahead and finish the top here. So you're going to take this entire assembly right here, and you're going to lift that up. That's sitting on a double hinge. That's going to swing around, and then you'll notice that you've got a series of tabs that are going to correspond to some slots in there, including that gap we were just talking about. So then you're going to take that and you're going to bring that down just like that. And then you're going to take these shoulder pads and they're going to form the back of the car. So you're going to, I'll show you from this angle first. You're just going to bring those down like that. And here it is from a side angle for this side, just on a double hinge. Just going to bring it down and do that. All right, you should have something that looks like that, hopefully. All right, so now we'll turn our attention to these legs down here. So you're going to want to take these legs and kind of give them a little bit of room. Those arms, they're just going to keep getting in your way a little bit as you do this, but that's all right. It's kind of inconsequential. So then once you've done that, you can take your toes and you're going to fold your toes all the way in. Do that on both sides. Now, one step you can do now or you can do later. I'm going to go ahead and do it now. You see how there's a little bit of a gap, and that's for your ankle tilt. So there's actually a tab up here, or a little port peg that corresponds right here. So I'm going to squeeze these together until I hear that snap. And that way I've got my bumper completed. I'm going to do the same thing over here. That way I am complete with my bumper on both sides. So now that I've done that, you can see we're looking at the top of the car right here. So what you want to do, keep those legs spread, and then you're going to rotate those inward at your thigh rotation. Just bring them in 90 degrees. And then you're just going to bring, these are sitting on ball joints, so you're going to bring that windshield up on that ball joint, and then you're going to swing that around. And do the same thing over here. They may bump into each other, they may not bump into each other. It's not that big of a deal, because what you're going to do next, I'm going to show you from this angle. So you're sitting on a double hinge right here. You actually have tabs that go into those knees. So you're actually going to disconnect those and you're going to bring this double hinge down and then collapse it right there. So you can see what it's done essentially is it's shortened the car up to give you the proper length that you're going to need. All right, and now we're going to do the same thing on this side. I'm just going to go ahead and get that arm out of my way for now, just to make it easier to see. So bring that up on that double hinge and then bring that back down. And you can see, hopefully, where we're going here. So things get a little bit fiddly, but once you get it right here, you can see one of these guys peeking out at you. You have little pieces up underneath there. So right there, you're just going to swing those out. This makes the back rear window area of the car, and then that fills in these gaps right here. All right, so to make life easier for myself, I'm going to go ahead and connect this front bumper. It's on a little bit of a catch, so instead of just forcing it in with pressure, I'm just going to slide those two together like that. And then once I've done that, now I can do the same thing up here with this piece. I'm just going to get those to go together. There we go. And then give this a squeeze right here. And then I'm going to bring this down and tab it in right in that area. So you can see that we essentially have most of the car completed. There's just a couple of minor steps left. So before I bring these arms in, you'll see these tabs right there. So these doors are sitting on double hinges. So I'm going to bring this portion of the double hinge up to give my arms the clearance that they're going to need to slide up in there like that. So you can see if I try to bring my arm down right now, it's not going to do that because I've got this tab in the way. So I'm going to close that up, and then I'm going to bring my arm down. Now, the reason the arm orientation is important when I was talking about making sure that the ports were sitting out to the front is because your last couple of steps here, you're going to have slots right there that are going to correspond to these tabs right here for the doors. So that way when you bring those doors in, you have somewhere for those doors to tab in. So let's go ahead and do that. Tab that door in, and then we're going to tab that door in. Give everything one final squeeze. And then you have him in the car mode, but there's one last step. So now you're going to take his weapon, and then you're going to put it in these two pegs right up here at the top, and drop that down, and there you have Hotshot in his alt mode. So before we bring him in for his details and close-up, I figured I would just throw him on the turntable. That way we can get a full unobstructed 360 view of Hotshot and simultaneously show off what you can do with those ports as far as blast effects go. It's not a tremendous amount of what you can do in his car mode, but I think it's fairly effective. I really do like what's going on right here. I think that looks good. And then you've got a couple ports on either side right here that you can do whatever you want to do with. And then because that rear axle doubles as that cannon in bot mode, you can certainly plug something in there if you care to do so. But yeah, I don't know. He's not the best little car figure I've seen, but he's not bad. I still contend that he looks a lot like a McDonald's Happy Meal toy, but he's kind of fun. You can have a good time with this guy, and I think that there is some pretty good playability here. So let's get this turntable out of the way, bring him in, and take a look at his details in this mode. Now that we have that turntable out of the way, we can bring Hotshot in for his close-up in his alt mode, and we're just going to start right up here at the front. And for the most part, I think this looks pretty good. Yes, there could have been more detail. Maybe the headlights could have been a different color than the bezels surrounding it, but they weren't shy with that silver paint. So it's better than nothing, I'll say that. Same thing with the bumper here. It's a decent amount of detail, but a little splash of paint wouldn't have hurt anything. It would have made his feet look better, and it would have made him look better in his alt mode as well. And of course, with that gun in place as that blown engine, then yeah, it really adds to the look there. And then you have the translucent blue right there. Of course, this yellow is painted on, so this is all just translucent blue plastic right here at the top. So you can see a little bit of a color differential between that yellow up there and then the molded yellow. It doesn't look awful, though. Coming down to the wheels, yeah, nothing to write home about, but they're okay. I just keep reminding myself this is a Deluxe-class figure, so you've got a little bit of a door handle there, and you've got an intake for your brake cooling right there coming to the back. You've just got a big old mushroom bag there, not happy about that. There's a port, and you do have a gas cap right there, so hey, that's kind of a cool little thing. Would have been nice if that was silver. They use so much up here, but Coming around to the back, you've got some decent detail going on in there, and then on the back itself, yeah, some painted taillights, something like that would have looked pretty good. I'm annoyed by this. It's just, you can't really do anything. It's not the right size for blast effects. There's nothing else that plugs into it as far as I can tell. So it's just a post. So there you go. And coming around to this side, it's the same thing as the other side. So symmetry is good. There he is from the top. And here he is from the bottom. So everything hides away pretty good except those hands. But he doesn't look awful down here at all. One thing that I do like in this mode is, you know, for whatever reason you don't want him to look like a normal car, you can just do this, and you know, you could have him jacked up, you know, driving around like that, you know, or you could bring him back like that if you wanted to do something like that, or if you wanted to do some kind of a crazy turn action, you can, you know, do that. Whee! So I kind of like the freedom to do that as well, but most people are probably just going to have him like that. All right, so now that we've gone over the details, let's go ahead and get into those comparisons and see how he looks against some other cars out there. So our theme for comparisons today are going to be either cars that are yellow, cars that have a blown engine, or cars that have the word hot somewhere in their name. So let's go ahead and start. Our first comparison is G1 Bumblebee. Moving on to our next comparison, this is Bumblebee as we saw him in the Transformers Prime animated series. Next up is the War for Cybertron Earthrise Sunstreaker. And for our final comparison, this is the Transformers Legacy Core Class Hot Rod. So, Hotshot, Hot Rod, couple of hotheads. And just like that, comparisons are over, so let's go ahead and get Hotshot transformed back into his bot mode. So to get Hotshot back into his hot bot mode, go ahead and start right up here and take that engine off. Just give that a pull and take that out, put it off to the side. Now you're going to come over here to these doors. You're just going to pop those doors on either side right now, just get them popped out, something like that. And now you're going to come up under here. If you have a thumbnail, use your thumbnail. If not, use a tool. Just be careful. And you're going to pry right in this area right here just to disconnect this, and do the same thing over on the other side right there. So you've got that disconnected. And then while I'm up here, I'm going to go ahead and just give those a little bit of a push and disconnect those two pieces right there. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to disconnect this. So it's easier for me. I'm just going to come down here and give this a little bit of a wiggle and pop that out. So now you have these all completely separated. So what you can do now is pull these out a little bit, and then I'm going to show you from the back side here. So you're going to take these double hinges and you're going to pull those out, get them about right there, because the next step that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to fold these doors in, because when you fold these doors in, it gives you that tab right there that's going to correspond to the knee. So before you go any further, go ahead and make sure you have these doors folded down. All right, so now you can bring the leg the rest of the way up on that double hinge. As you do, that's going to expose that slot in there, and then you can just bring that and drop it in like that if you want to do that right now. All right, now the other thing you're going to want to do is take this little flap right here, and you're going to want to fold that flap in. Just push it till you can't move it anymore, and then swing the windshield down so it's like that for now. And then do the same thing on this side over here. Move these arms out of your way if you want, so you can spread these legs out so they're not running into each other. So let's go ahead and do that. Just move those arms out now. And then bring this out. And then fold your door down. Make sure your tab is exposed. And then bring that up and then drop that right into that slot for the knee. All right, then I'm going to come up here. I'm going to push that little piece all the way in. Then I'm going to swing this windshield down so it's like that. And now what I can do is I can take, I guess the easiest way is going to be this view, take this bumper and give that a split right there, and then I'm going to bring this foot out. And then I'm going to rotate from this angle. I'm going to rotate my leg in. So you should have this being the front of the leg right there, and then of course your toes pointing forward. And then do the same thing over here. Rotate that in, And now you can just come back here and you can fold this windshield in. As far as I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but as far as I can tell, there's really nowhere that this clips in. It just kind of hangs out back here. So do the same thing back here, swing that around, and then you have those legs finished. All right, so now you can turn your attention up here to this. Go ahead and get those arms back out of your way. And then you can just give this a pull. It's going to come up on that double hinge right there. And then you're going to swing this all the way around. Again, moving those arms out of your way. Swing that all the way around, and then you have tabs right here that are going to correspond to slots right there. So you're going to bring that down. And, oh, I missed a step. Before you do that, it's not going to let you until you move those shoulder pads. So, sorry about that. Bring those down, and then just give that a gentle push in. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and do my waist rotation now and get it out of the way. So I have my legs facing the right direction. Bring your arms down, swing those out. Same thing over here. And now we're going to grab his little head and yank his little head out of his body. So pull forward on that chest and then bring that forward. The visor does have a tendency to come down, so if it does, leave it down if you feel like it. It's up to you. Give that a push, and then if you want to complete the instructions as they're provided, bring those shoulder pads down and then push these in. This side stays in, this side does not for me, so, you know, hopefully yours is a little different. But that is essentially it. You have Hotshot back in his bot mode. For our first bot mode comparison, here we see Hotshot standing next to my G1 Bumblebee. Our next comparison is Bumblebee as we saw him from that Transformers Prime animated series. Moving on to our next comparison, this is the War for Cybertron Earthrise Sunstreaker. And for our final bot mode comparison, here's another hot fellow. This is the Transformers Legacy Core Class Hot Rod. That's it for comparisons. Let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. So that is the Transformers Legacy Armada Universe Autobot Hotshot. And I gotta say, he's not my favorite figure. This is just not one that got me excited. I'm not a fan of a lot of things on here. He's not all bad, but he's certainly got things that could have been done better. But let's go ahead and get into it, and we're going to start with the aesthetics because I do have a lot to say as far as this goes. So I will start off with a couple positives. Number one, I will tell you, I think it's an interesting design. We've never seen a figure like this before, and I do appreciate that. So I'll give him kudos where it's due there. This is a new design. It's interesting, and it was kind of fun learning it. Additionally, I like his visor. So that targeting visor that goes down over his eyes when he's preparing to fire. I think those are nice touches, and I think they work really well as far as that goes. The car mode itself is also okay. You know, there's nothing major to complain about in the overall shape of the car mode, so I do like that. Now, getting to the negatives here, in bot mode, he's got a lot of junk. I mean, he's got a backpack and it's ugly. He's got stuff behind his legs and they're ugly. He's got hollow insides of legs and it's ugly. There's just a lot going on here, not in a good way. So I think that really detracts from the looks. He just looks like a value toy. It's unfortunate. I think he could have they could have done a little bit better with him, and I think that he could have looked a lot better. Now, as far as the car mode goes, like I said, the car mode looks good. I don't really like the wheels. Those of you who've watched my reviews in the past know how I feel about mushroom pegs. I understand the use of that area for one of those for the blast effect, but the opposite side is just a mushroom peg. Not the biggest fan of that, which is unfortunate. And then he could have used a little bit more paint in the car mode. You know, maybe a splash on the bumper, a little bit in the back by the tail lights, and then on that gas cap I think would have been a nice touch as well. Overall, my summation is he looks and he feels like a McDonald's Happy Meal toy. It very much feels like a, look, Dad, I got a Transformer with my Chicken McNuggets. That's just kind of how he feels. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's red and yellow like McDonald's. It has everything to do with that's just how the toy feels, the figure feels. It just feels like that Happy Meal toy. So, not my favorite here. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 in overall looks. Moving on to the articulation. The articulation here is not bad, but it's nothing amazing. He is missing on a few areas. You can't do much with his head. He has nothing at the wrists. He's limited in those toes and what you can do with those feet. And then the bend angle on his knees is limited. Even when you move these out of the way, you're still not going to get a whole lot of degrees of freedom there. You'll still be able to get him in some poses, just not as dynamic as you could have otherwise. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 on articulation. Moving on to the accessories, or the accessory in this case. It's a good looking accessory. It really is. I like the paint. I like the sculpt work on it. I like the fact that it's got blast effect compatibility. I like the fact that it doubles as his engine. It's a really cool use of that piece. So I do like all those things. What I don't like is that he just came with one accessory, and that one accessory has those two posts. So as he comes around, you can see there's this other post hanging out here. Yeah, it's just unsightly. And I don't know which, should I put the left post in the left hand, the right post in the left hand, so on and so forth. So it would have been nice if they could have found a better way to design this. And also, if you're going to have it this way, give his arms the movement and the motion that they need so he could use both hands and hold on to it with both hands like it's some kind of a super gun. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 on the accessories. Moving on to quality. This is probably the strongest part of the figure. All the joints are tight. The sculpt work is good. Paint work is good for the most part, except it's a little light in a couple of places that I just mentioned. One of my blast effects just fell off, and that's the other problem going back up to it. Those blast effect areas, the tips on the accessory are kind of shallow. So they're not going to stay on there forever. I'm not going to fix it. We're just going to keep on rolling. So overall quality, joints are tight, comes with everything that he was supposed to come with. I have two issues. The first issue is this shoulder pad right here. Does not stay tabbed in on my copy. I push it in, it pops out. Push it in, it pops out. And then that paint that I mentioned. So you can see that it could have used more layers on that translucent blue, and it could have used more layers right here in the orange. You just get a little bit of bleed through right there. So overall quality is not bad on this figure. Just a few misses there. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. So this brings us to our last bullet, which is overall value. I don't think the value's here. Let me start by saying that I picked this figure up at a local Target for $23 US. I don't think he's worth $23 US. I'm not going to go so far as to say that I regret picking the figure up, but as I mentioned earlier, this looks and feels like a cheap child's toy. I hate to say that, but it does. I think this figure has potential, but I don't think the value is there for $23 US. I really don't. I think this would have been more along the lines of a 15, maybe an $18 US figure, not 23. He doesn't qualify for that price point in my opinion. But I'm going to be a little bit generous here. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 for overall value, just simply because this is the first time we've seen this type of figure, or this design, I should say. So that brings us to our grand total out of a possible 50 points. Legacy Hotshot gets 36 out of 50, puts him at 72%. That sounds like a really low score. He's not a bad figure. He's just not a good figure. And I'm not going to recommend this figure. I think if you enjoy this, then by all means, feel free to pick him up. I just don't think he's worth the price point. If you can find him on clearance or find him for less expensive price online, maybe he would be. But $23, the MSRP, I simply don't think he's worth it. So with that, that's going to wrap the review up. I hope you guys got some good information. Hope you were entertained. And if you haven't already done so, please be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Leave a comment if you feel like it. And if you don't mind, one last favor. If you know someone who would enjoy the channel or the videos or anything else that we do over here, please feel free to share this video with them. Share the channel with them. We'd love to see that grow and love to have that interaction. So until we see you guys in the next review, take care.